next on the news.
Pope Francis wants your opinion, and soon you'll be able to give it from the palm of your hand. I'm Jessica Easthope with how a digital synod is making engaging with your church community easier than ever before.
Plus, NATO countries are uniting under the mounting threat of war in Ukraine. European leaders ramping up talks to defuse the tension. Then Pope Benedict responds to a report about his mishandling of abuse cases. The retired pontiff asking for forgiveness but denying any personal wrongdoing. And a sobering milestone. The Washington National Cathedral tolls its funeral bell 900 times in memory of the 900,000 Americans lost to COVID-19. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. Listening and journeying together. That's the theme of the Synod that has Pope Francis asking for feedback from every Catholic around the globe. In the Diocese of Brooklyn, reaching everyone means meeting them where they are. And for some, that's online. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more.
Very important themes of journeying and being companions together.
They're questions designed to bring about change. Some the church has never asked before. Who do you think is in charge? How can the church work better with other communities of faith? And now they're in digital form.
They're going to be asked basic questions that would be asked of any Catholic right now who wants to have a voice.
As the Global Synod process has gotten underway and parishes have started listening sessions, leaders in the Diocese of Brooklyn are realizing the people they need to reach most are not the regulars.
Do not let ignorance.
Sister Marianne Seaton-LaPiccolo, who's leading the diocese's synod efforts with Father Joseph Gibino, says often they're people who have never come to church and might even feel unwelcome.
We want to hear from the people who don't come to the building called the church. We want to hear from people who don't feel welcome. And really, those are the voices that are going to change us.
That's why the diocese is meeting people where they are. The Sales Media Group, the digital and technology arm of the Diocese of Brooklyn that operates Net TV, has created a digital synod. It starts with videos explaining the topics of the synod, hoping to make people feel like their voices matter, and puts the questions posed during parish listening sessions into an online survey.
How is it that we can be a more welcoming, if you will, a more listening church? So we're trying to use technology to help us listen.
Anyone with an Android, iPhone, laptop, or internet connection can scan a QR code or follow a link and participate. A motivation for the digital synod has been the need to reach young people.
Their world is a digital world. You know, everything is online, and everyone will have access to it.
People can complete the 10-topic survey all at once or in parts and save their answers. The digital synod is launching on February 27th in time for Lent. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Like Jess said, the Synod is launching for Lent, but the Diocese of Brooklyn is encouraging people to register now online at dioceseofbrooklyn.org/synod survey. Feedback from the meetings is critical in helping the church adapt to the diocese's changing demographics. And while the Diocese of Brooklyn is roughly halfway through their synod, 3 key findings have emerged from the gatherings. Parishioners said outreach and faith formation for young people was key, followed by outreach to families. They also said that there needs to be more focus on diverse populations, in particular the Hispanic community. The synod process is expected to continue for a few more months. After 2 days of high-pitched diplomatic talks, European leaders are stepping up efforts to de-escalate the crisis on their continent. This as U.S. intelligence services are keeping a close eye on the deteriorating situation at the Russia-Ukraine border. Chris Wynn reports.
Tensions are rising by the day as Russia builds up military forces around Ukraine.
The risk for an attack is going up.
Europe now ramping up its efforts to defuse potential conflict, even as the United States has warned that a Russian attack on Ukraine could be imminent. Shuttle diplomacy, all aimed at lowering the temperature.
And we also see the threatening rhetoric, the very strong rhetoric from Russia saying that we need to give in to their demands.
In Kiev Tuesday, French President Emmanuel Macron visited his Ukrainian counterpart Vladimir Zelensky following a 5-hour meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin a day earlier. The Kremlin has repeatedly denied it is planning an incursion, but argues that NATO support for Ukraine constitutes a growing threat to Russia.
We stand for the deoccupation of our territory, Today's support for Ukraine from our partners in terms of strengthening our defense capability is a win-win for the whole region.
Also at issue, an 8-year war between Ukraine and Russian-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine. Russia has accused Ukraine of failing to implement the 2015 peace deal known as the Minsk Agreement, whereas Ukraine says implementing it on Russia's terms could destabilize the country.
Of course, there is a real danger, but we continue to work for a political solution.
Chris Wynn, Currents News.
As the uncertainty in the region continues, the Archbishop of the Ukrainian Catholic Church is asking for prayers, calling the crisis not only a crisis for Ukrainians, but something that is affecting the whole world. He described the ongoing situation as a, quote, hybrid war involving military, propaganda, politics, and economics. The Archbishop also spoke about a possible papal visit to Ukraine. Just weeks ago, a report commissioned by the Catholic Church concluded that Pope Benedict mishandled abuse cases when he was an archbishop in Germany. Today, the retired pope is responding to it, asking for forgiveness, but again, denying any personal wrongdoing. In his 2-page letter released by the Vatican, Benedict began by thanking his legal team for fighting to maintain his innocence. He dedicated the rest of his letter to the importance of confession, acknowledging that he will pass away soon and be judged by God. He prayed he would be forgiven for shortcomings and asked this of victim survivors. I can only express to all the victims of sexual abuse my profound shame, my deep sorrow, and my heartfelt request for forgiveness. I have had great responsibilities in the Catholic Church. All the greater is my pain for the abuses and the errors that occurred in those different places during the time of my mandate. Each individual case of sexual abuse is appalling and irreparable. The victims of sexual abuse have my deepest sympathy, and I feel great sorrow for each individual case. Meanwhile, the Vatican has already strongly defended Benedict's record in the aftermath of that Munich abuse report, pointing out that he was the first pope in history to meet with victims. Benedict also issued strong norms to punish priests. During the final 2 years of his pontificate, he laicized nearly 400 priests for abuse. For a deeper analysis of Pope Emeritus Benedict's letter, we're joined now by John Allen, editor at Crux. And John, in a recent article, you wrote that Benedict's response didn't follow the, quote, bishop's playbook, and instead of not engaging, he came forward with a robust head-on approach. So does this now set a standard for Catholic bishops on how to respond to accusations like this?
I doubt it very much, Christine. And the reality is the diocesan bishops are much closer to public opinion than a retired pope. A diocesan bishop lives in the place where a scandal is happening. He sees the people there every day. This Pope Emeritus, anyway, lives in a rehabbed convent on the grounds of the Vatican and sees only whom he wants to see. I don't necessarily think it sets a precedent for future Pope Emeriti.
So why do you think it was important for Benedict to respond in this way?
Well, first of all, Benedict's watchword is and always has been truth. And I think he and his advisors are convinced that the accusations that pertain to his brief period as the Archbishop of Munich between 1977 and 1982 are simply false. They are not true in their eyes. And being a man of truth, I think it was important to Benedict to say that out loud. I think also it is important to understand that from Pope Benedict's point of view, the Church's reform on the fight against child sexual abuse really began in his papacy. He believes himself to have worked tirelessly, both at the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith and also as Pope, to promote that reform. Remember, that this is a pope who, among other things, laicized more than 400 Catholic priests for acts of child sexual abuse. And I think, therefore, this is core to his own understanding of his legacy, and he felt it was important to try to put the record straight.
You wrote a book on Benedict when it comes to his actions on combating abuse. How strong do you think he was?
Well, I mean, we only have two popes to measure by, right? I mean, John Paul II was too old and too frail to do much substantive towards the end of his papacy, other than turning the whole thing over to then Cardinal Ratzinger. But I certainly think that measured against the evidence we have, Pope Benedict was remarkably strong. I think he established the American zero tolerance policy at the beginning, and in essence, universalized it at the level of the global church. He put in place aggressive measures for expediting cases in order to get abusers out of the priesthood as soon as humanly possible. Made it abundantly clear he simply didn't have any patience for it. Now, and also was the first pope to meet with victims, the first pope to apologize for the abuse scandals. So, whether all that was enough, that's something for historians and so on to debate. But I don't think there's any serious question. The Pope Benedict committed himself wholeheartedly to the fight against clerical sexual abuse.
One last question really quickly. So Pope Benedict asked for forgiveness, but he didn't admit to wrongdoing. So how do you think that will be received by victims of sexual abuse?
Oh, I suspect many victims will be hurt by it and won't find it nearly enough. Now, of course, seen through Benedict's eyes, if he doesn't believe he did the things this report charges him with doing, then there's nothing for him to take responsibility for. I think the apology was more global, just simply saying, look, I tried to do my best. I dropped the ball in 1,000 ways. May you and God forgive me.
All right, John Allen, editor at Crux, thanks for being here and for your analysis.
Of course.
If you want to read Pope Benedict's full letter, just head over to thetablet.org. To Haiti now, where new information is suggesting that Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry was involved in planning the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. This, according to the former judge who oversaw the case. In a late 2021 recording, that judge can be heard saying Henry is connected to and friends with the mastermind behind the assassination. He also affirmed Henry is a prime suspect. The judge did not know he was being recorded at the time and said about the recording, quote, "Lots of people are trying to influence the case, and I will not play their game." There's a lot more news headed your way. Pope Francis marks a day of prayer against human trafficking with a prayer marathon organized by the Religious Sisters of Talitha Kum. A bell tolls in the nation's capital as a grim reminder of the hundreds of thousands of lives lost to COVID-19. And scientists are calling it a potential game changer, the new device that's offering hope to paralyzed patients with spinal cord injuries.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
February 8th is the International Day of Prayer and Awareness Against Human Trafficking. It's being marked by a day-long prayer marathon organized by the Religious Sisters of Talitha Kum. They say it has even more importance this year since the pandemic has put even more people at risk of being trafficked.
The time we are living in, which for the last 2 years has been marked by the pandemic, has increased the number of vulnerable situations which are exploited by traffickers.
During the Angelus, the Pope encouraged these sisters to continue their work with victims of human trafficking and blessed a statue they presented to the Diocese of Rome.
Un saluto speciale alle religiose del gruppo Talitha Kum, impegnate contro la tratta. Grazie, grazie per quello che voi fate, per il vostro coraggio. Grazie. Vi incoraggio nel vostro lavoro e benedico la statua di Santa Giuseppina Bakhita.
The statue is a moving depiction of St. Josephine Bakhita, a former slave and universal symbol of the Church's commitment to fighting human trafficking.
She is a woman who, with a simple gesture, holds open a manhole which joins the world of darkness with the world of light, the submerged world with the visible one. And from this manhole emerge the people who represent the different forms of trafficking in all its realities in the world.
Human trafficking occurs in all parts of the world, and as such, participants from over 30 countries and all continents will participate in the Day of Prayer. Together, they aim to raise awareness about the over 40 million modern slaves worldwide, of which an estimated 72% are women and girls. The Religious Sisters of Talitha Kum work in more than 92 countries worldwide to combat human trafficking. The Catholic relief organization Caritas International is asking all people of goodwill to support the fight against human trafficking. The group calling for a wave of solidarity to receive, accompany, and defend victims, as well as receiving them with unconditional compassion. Caritas also called on governments to establish national anti-trafficking plans. The National Cathedral in Washington marked a grim COVID milestone, 900,000 Americans who have now died from COVID-19. The cathedral tolling 900 times for more than 1 hour Monday night, each toll representing 1,000 lives lost since the start of the pandemic. According to Johns Hopkins University, the U.S. is now averaging nearly 2,500 new deaths each day. However, the good news is that COVID-19 cases are on the decline, recording at a third of what they were 3 weeks ago. Governor Kathy Hochul is doubling down on New York's mask mandate, saying she wants to see vaccination rates improve among kids 5 to 11 years old before she drops the rule. The news comes as the state's mask mandate is set to expire on Thursday. The New York State Department of Health says it expects the mandate to be renewed. This as a wave of other states are already planning to eliminate their school mask mandates, among them Oregon, New Jersey, Connecticut, California, and Delaware. The latest state to announce their plan, Oregon, will remove their mandate March 31st. The earliest of the three, Connecticut, will be February 28th. New Jersey will lift their mandate on March 7th, though districts will still be able to require the masks during any spikes. Delaware will end mask mandates on March 31st and California on February 15th. A product of life with COVID, outdoor dining may now become a fixture in New York City. A city council committee is debating a new bill Tuesday that will make those recognizable dining sheds permanent. The temporary program was established in June of 2020 to help restaurants survive the COVID shutdown. There are now 12,000 outdoor dining structures around the city. Andrew Cuomo is considering a political comeback. Sources inside the former New York governor's inner circle say Cuomo is considering running for New York Attorney General this year. But a spokesperson for Cuomo is dismissing those claims. The former governor resigned from his post in August of 2021 following a series of sexual harassment allegations and growing criticism over his handling of the pandemic. Now to a medical breakthrough that could be a game changer for people with spinal cord injuries. A new medical device appears to be able to help paralyzed people walk again. And while it's still early in the process, the results so far are being described as remarkable. Elizabeth Cohen has details.
No one ever thought Michael Rocati would be able to do this or this. In 2017, Rocati was paralyzed after a motorcycle accident.
I tried to move the legs, tried to change my position. I see that was impossible to do nothing. I fixed in my mind that was just a situation. So I put on my mind, my behavior to try to solve this problem. And I never stopped.
Now he can walk about a mile without assistance thanks to this device. It sends electrical impulses to his spine. He can control it through his computer. Scientists have been researching electrical stimulation as a treatment for paralysis for 3 decades. In 2014, I visited the University of Louisville, where I saw patients using similar technology. They were able to wiggle their toes and move their knees.
Whoa, there you go.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And even stand up. And with months of assistance in rehab, some of them even began walking. The newest stimulator, this one from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, can reach more of the spinal cord and allow people to regain movement on the same day that they receive the spinal implant.
This technology is so precise that immediately after the surgery, the patient can walk and stand.
Within a week, 3 patients, men between the ages of 29 and 41, including Michelle, were able to walk like this. Their cases detailed in a study published Monday in the journal Nature Medicine. With hours and hours of rehabilitation for 5 months, the patients were walking, riding bikes, and even boxing. The research is still early. They've tried it out on only 3 patients. They plan to test it out on 50 to 100 more to make sure it's safe and to see if it works better in some people than in others. They hope that if the device performs well in these tests, that it will be widely used in the next 3 to 4 years. But these initial steps are still monumental.
Walking is super important. Just stand up can solve a lot of of problem in the normal life. Just to do a simple shower with a crutches, I can stand up and do a shower. With the walker, I'm free.
That was Elizabeth Cohen reporting. The spinal cord stimulator has been used for decades to treat chronic pain. Scientists modified the device to target nerves in the spine that control leg and trunk movements. That's just amazing. Still to come on Currents News.
This week I've seen the worst and the best of people.
He was paying it forward, traveling all over the country to help vets in need until someone stole his van. But then a complete stranger stepped in. What happened next will inspire you. Stay with us. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, Lon Hodge is the man behind a nonprofit called Operation Fetch. He travels the country performing what he calls planned acts of community kindness by helping veterans with PTSD. Lon was devastated recently when his van was stolen, but now someone else's act of kindness is allowing his work to continue. Nelson Garcia has his story.
Traveling to military cemeteries across the country. That's where we first met Lon Hodge and his service dog Gander at Fort Logan National Cemetery.
George Manis.
Honoring veterans who died by suicide in 2017. Hodge says Gander saved him from the same fate.
The line everybody uses is Gander knows. Gander knows. Right?
They drove from state to state in this white van for 8 years, making a difference, making memories.
We actually had been hit, I'm not kidding, 17 times in that van, Nelson, 17 times. And none of them were our fault.
Gander passed away about a year ago, but Hodge and his nonprofit Operation Fetch are still on the road, and his van was stolen from his motel on Tuesday in Topeka, Kansas.
I walked into my motel room like 10 feet away from the car. When I walked back out, the car was gone.
With all of his belongings and Gander's ashes inside.
And I was devastated.
Hours later, the van was found, stripped and empty.
Tore up everything inside. I mean, they destroyed the van. Part of me is like really furious and enraged, and the other part of me is like, what can we do to fix the circumstances and get you the help you need? We recovered the van, and the only thing that they left were Gander's ashes.
Relief, and then amazement.
This week I've seen the worst and the best of people.
For someone who travels to cemeteries and homeless camps to pay it forward, someone paid Hodge back. An anonymous donor bought him a new van the next day.
I'm without words.
So he can carry on his mission for veterans across the country.
Now that we got a van, it's time to go back to work.
That was Nelson Garcia reporting. On the Operation Fetch website, Hodge credits his father with inspiring him. It also says he was a 2-time recipient of the Bronze Star and Purple Heart. So thanks to him for all of his great work. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.